Okay, another advanced ball striking conversation here with, I'm just going to say a legend here, Kelly Murray of Canada. I mean, you're going to, if you don't know who he is, you're going to know soon. So, but anyway, so Kelly, you were on you started on the Canadian tour when?
1980.
1980. Okay, so, and you went to San Jose State, right?
Yeah, just my senior year, I played college hockey and college golf in Canada,
Okay.
and it was a mixed bag because what I was doing, John, is I was actually um, trying to play my way to the U.S. College system, but my grade point average wasn't good enough. So Coach Vroom over at San Jose State said, "Get your grade point average up." So I was working full time and going to night school and trying to get the grade point up. And finally, after 4 years, it was acceptable enough. And I went down to San Jose thinking I had 2 years to play. And coach said, "Oh, you've only got 1 year." And so I'm like, "What?" He says, "You can redshirt for a year." And I go, "Oh, no, no, no." So, anyways, I did play for San Jose State with Mark Wiebe and Don Levine and a bunch of other characters from your area.
Yeah, so was Joe Tamburino on the team with you then?
Not at that point,
Okay,
no.
so I came in 81. Let's see. Yeah, I came into Fresno State in 81, so we just missed each other then.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you were a Bulldog. I guess Tim Norris was probably playing there still, or was
Yeah,
he
yeah.
just
So
here?
you would have known Steady Eddie, Luthke, and right and
Yeah, all the
Tim.
old chaps.
Yeah, those guys. Okay, all right. So let's get back to the Canada. So I show up at I want to say Thunderbird Country Club qualifying 1987. And I've told this story before. I'd never heard of Mo Norman, didn't know anything about him, nothing, never heard anything, because this is before the internet, right? So, so Vic Wilk and I, we pull into the parking lot at Thunderbird, and we get our clubs, and we see the driving range, and there's a big circle of people around, and everyone's going woo woo, and I just see this club going straight up in the air, and people go ah, and we're just looking at each other like, what's this, right? So we
Yeah.
walk over there, and there's this old guy, okay, on the range. He's got a 4-wood in his hand. He's hitting range balls, and he's just hitting every shot just dead perfect, and everybody, and he's just going, oh, blah, 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 blah. He talks, right? So
So he just
after
for
a
the
few,
just for your listeners, Mo would have been 58 years old at that time.
in
So
1987.
yeah, so he was born in 1929. But the thing is, you say old man, so I'm 69 now, so I know what old man is. Mo died when he was 75, but you saw him when he was in his heyday. He was still striping it.
Yeah, so here's the great story. So we're watching Mo, and you remember they have those big tin like yardage signs. It's like 220, right? It was a
Yeah,
220 sign, big
yeah,
big tin round sign. He hit the sign 3 times in a row.
yeah.
Clank, 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 from 220 yards with range balls. And I mean, Vic and I are looking at each other like, what? What are we seeing? And why are all these people? And who is this guy? And people are like, oh, this is Mo Norman. He was the greatest ball striker of all time. And we thought, well, how come we haven't heard of this guy? So, that's kind of where it started for me. I mean, but I had never played golf in Canada before until the qualifier. And to think that the very first person that I see hit a golf ball in Canada is Mo Norman. The very first person that I see hit a golf ball, I get off the plane in Toronto, we get a rent a car, we go to
Ah,
Thunderbird, and the first person I see hitting golf balls ever for me is Mo Norman. I
yeah.
mean, it's just so anyway, I'll just leave that as my intro. But let's talk.
Excellent.
So let's talk about your history with Mo. You've got a deep, this story with you is an incredible story.
Well,
So
it's not just my history with Mo. It's the fact that all of us. I went to Thunderbird course in 1980 and got my card. I didn't have the privilege of having Mo in my corner at that time, but I did drive home after qualifying. I drove across Canada to Vancouver, and it was 2.5 days nonstop. And all I did is pull over and sleep about 2 hours, and then get going again another 10 hours, and I'd sleep for another half hour or an hour, and then. But 2.5 days later, I went running into the pro shop to our old buddy, who you got to meet, Alvy Thompson. I opened the door and I
Alvy,
go, Alvy, I got my tour card. And he goes, I read about it 3 days ago in the paper. What are you doing back in Vancouver? The tour starts in Toronto in another week and a half. And I said, well, it's so expensive. I don't know anybody, and hotels are expensive. And so I came back. He goes, no, you're a tour pro now. You don't come running home to mama. He says, okay, enjoy a couple of meals at the house there with your girlfriend, and then head back on the road. And he says, you're very lucky, Alvy said to me. And Alvy was my coach since I was 14. He was my putting coach and iron
Yeah.
striking coach. And he
Yeah.
said to me, you're very lucky that my two tour buddies I used to travel with, George Knudsen and Mo Norman, are still playing the tour. You're very lucky. So I want you to do this. Repeat after me, and you have to get this right. You have to go up to them because they're very, Mo is very picky, but George is isolationist. He doesn't want anybody around him. He'll hang out with Hogan. That's about it. But he said, I traveled with these guys, and I know that you have to approach them properly. So say this, repeat after me. Alvy Thompson was my coach since I was 14. I'm a new tour rookie. My name is Kelly Murray. So I went, my name is Kelly Murray. He goes, no. You have to say Alvy Thompson. It has to be the first words out of your mouth. He'll just turn his back on you and walk away. So I got it right, and I went up to Mo, and I went like this. I went, Alvy Thompson was my coach. I'm a new tour rookie. My name is Kelly Murray. He goes, ooh, Alvy, ooh, could he putt? Oh, good putter. Ooh, oh boy, could he putt? Could he putt? Oh, and he says, ooh, he says, my first name is Murray. They used to call me Mo the Schmo, and Kelly Murray, and he says, oh yeah, and he says, oh, and I have a twin sister named Marie, and she married a fellow surnamed Kelly. She's Marie Kelly, Kelly Murray, Marie Kelly, Kelly Murray. I'll never forget your name. Ooh, my name's Murray, and you're Kelly Murray. Oh, I'll never forget your name. Oh, I got a twin sister named Marie. She married a fellow surnamed Kelly. I'll never forget your name. Oh, and at that point, I realized this man's brain repeats, and he stays on this repeat cycle. Just like the old LPs when you're playing a record and it just kept repeating and repeating. This guy, and when he got over a golf ball, that's why you saw him hit the sign 3 times in a row. He was on repeat mode. And in his mind, he wasn't missing anything. And he swings his hands around the golf course, through the golf course, not around the course. Because he always pointed out that, when he worked at a bowling alley as a kid, here's a story and a story and a story. First of all, he'd leave his house in the morning. His dad hated the fact that he liked golf. His dad was a football-loving daddy, and he didn't want his boy to play a sissy sport of golf. So when Mo left the house, he had to go outside and then reach underneath the porch, way under the steps, and take his bag of clubs and then go scooting down the side street and then slip through all the houses and go the other direction to the golf course when he was supposed to be leaving for the bowling alley.
Ah.
So now, picture this. His dad didn't like it. And then when he got home, since his mom and dad didn't have a phone and the bowling alley didn't have a phone, or maybe they did, but they couldn't phone the bowling alley because they'd have to go to a payphone. And they just trusted when Mo came home and gave him 75 cents that the 75 cents was from his wages from working the bowling alley. But what Mo did, he would slip out to the course and he said, I'd get there early and I'd find golf balls and I'd sell them to the pro. And I got enough to bring home 75 cents. I put it in my pocket. And he says, the other money I got to have hot dogs and Cokes all day and chocolate bars. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, ooh, I'd find 5 or 6 balls. I knew where the dubs hit them. I knew where the dubs hit them. They slice them, and they think they hit it 200 yards, but they only hit it 140. And when they have a slice, it's 120. So I look at the 110 to 120. And I find all the balls in the right rough. They get up there and start looking at about 170, and they don't know that it's 50 yards back. Everybody thinks they hit it further than they do, and they don't. So I could never keep a job. So one day I go to the bowling alley, and the guy says, where were you yesterday? I had to set the pins myself. And Mo goes, oh, I wasn't feeling well. And the guy pulled out a newspaper and said, Mo wins again. And he says, the guy had a paper from another county. They said they printed up, I just won a tournament that was over 10 miles from the house. I hitchhiked to the tournament. I won it. And this guy found out about it. My boss, he fired me from the bowling alley. Holy shit. So what am I going to tell my parents now? Oh, I no longer work at the bowling alley. Oh, I had to plead my way back, and I got a job at the bowling alley. And when I watched the bowlers, they all bent their knees and their arm went straight up in the air. So I put that into my golf swing. And what I see is if you took a golfer, they're aiming at the right gutter and the left gutter all the time. Their hands barely on line. And for me, look how my knees almost come to the ground when I hit. I'm the only guy I know that gets lowered through the ball. I get lower through the ball. And I have a tray of drinks. I never spill the drinks. I
Yeah,
come in
right. Never
with
still
a
a tray.
tray of
I'm
drinks.
a waiter. I'm a waiter. You'd always say, I'm a waiter. I'm a waiter. I never spill a tray.
So one day I said, Mo, explain that tray of drinks. He goes, well, what's your favorite drink? I said, chocolate milkshake. He goes, okay, you just bought 10 chocolate milkshakes. You got them on a tray, nice and heavy. Oh, look how your arm has to bend. Look at that position. Look. Now take that and bring it onto the table without spilling it. Look how your arm has to move. Don't take your arm and let it go that way. Don't let it go that way. I'm like, okay. And he goes, whoo, I never spilled a drink. I've never spilled a drink in my life. If you spill a drink, it goes left. Oh boy, you don't want to go left. Oh, I built a swing that doesn't go left. I do 1,000 exercises every day to build my left side. So when I hit a golf shot, it's like someone pushes a button on my right hip bone. They push a button, and I just automatically go into a I'm in a tripod, and I go right into a finish position, strong and mighty, right up the middle of the fairway, shaking hands with the pin, and the ball goes there every time because I'm trained. I do 1,000 exercises to get to that position. I'm only strong there. My body won't go anywhere else. It can't go left or right. And my mind only sees straight. It's a straight game from A to B, and that's all I see. I'm the only guy that could play at nighttime with one ball, 72-hole tournament in one night, 72 holes in one night. I'd be the only guy to finish with the same ball. Ooh, everybody be finished after 2 or 3 holes. Oh, 72 holes. Yeah. Hey, so John, so I spent 22 weeks on the tour with the guy who won the Order of Merit of Canada. His name is Eric Compton. He's had 2 heart transplants. And so Eric said, Kelly, come and caddy for me. I said, I'm teaching 8 days a week right now. I can't teach. I'm teaching natural golf. I got students up the yin yang. I'm in Virginia. I'm teaching. He says, come and caddy, man. He said, I won the Order of Merit. They're giving me a spot in the Canadian Open. He says, you played, 4 or 5 times? I said, yeah. He says, Glen Abbey, come and coach me. So I ended up going with Eric to the Canadian Open. But the way he talked me into it is he called me the next day and said, you got to come and caddy, man. He says, $1 million to win or 100 grand to the caddy. I said, let me change my schedule around. Let's see what we can do. So wouldn't you know it, Mo passed away that very time we were talking on the phone. And a
Wow.
few days later, I arrive in Toronto in time to go to his wake. So they've got not a wake, I guess it's a viewing. Yeah, the day before the funeral. And the first round, we're teeing off at 9:30 in the morning, and Mo's funeral's at 10 o'clock. So I can't go to his funeral. It's killing me, and I'm caddying for Eric.
What year was this?
2004. He
Okay.
was 75 years old. But the night before, I look into his coffin, and there he is laying there, as they make up the people, and he's laying there. He had a congestive heart failure, so they had him all made up, and he was laying there in a golf outfit, and he had his arms crossed, and he had a ball and a tee in his hand, like he's ready to tee up. He had a Titleist ball and a tee in his hand. He had his arms crossed with a driver underneath his arm, and he had outside the casket on the ground, he had a pair of FootJoy shoes, his favorite brown FootJoy shoes, with a Coke can, unopened Coke can sitting in the shoes. I walked up and I looked in there and I bawled like a baby. I can't believe I couldn't speak for 10 minutes. I was having a rough time. I could hardly breathe. It was like, there goes the greatest ball striker that ever lived. There goes Mo. I can't believe he's dead. I can't believe I didn't get a chance to see him again. This is the first time in 25 years coming to Canada that I haven't had a chance to hang out with Mo and just do exhibitions and spend 10-hour days on the range with him. I can't believe this guy's gone. And so then, John, a lady comes up to me and she hugs me and she says, I'm Marie Kelly. And I go, oh my God, can I tell you the story of when I first met your brother? I went up to him and I said, my name is Kelly Murray. I said, well, first of all, I had to say it exactly right. Alvy Thompson was my coach. And this was an old pro that was 29. He had 3 kids and he couldn't afford to stay on tour. And Alvy, moved to Vancouver and became the head pro at Marine Drive Golf Club, where I was a junior at age 14. So for 7 years, until I hit the tour, he was my coach. He advised me to go up to Mo Norman and George Knutson. And he said, make sure you say, Alvy Thompson is my coach. I'm a new tour rookie. My name is Kelly Murray. And when I said that, he goes, ooh, Kelly Murray. Ooh. I go, twin sister named Marie. She married a fellow surnamed Kelly. She's Marie Kelly, Kelly Murray, Marie Kelly, Kelly Murray, Kelly Murray. Ooh, I'll never forget your name. All of a sudden, I went from crying to laughing inside and happy again. And explaining to her, she goes, I didn't think he liked me that much. I go, oh, he loved you. Mo loved you. And she says, well, he never wanted us to come to the tournaments. And when he did, he would ignore us and he would take off. And I said, that's what he did to everybody. Oh, okay. She says, well, we tried to go to the tournaments, but he wouldn't tell us when his schedules were. He wouldn't tell us what time he teed off. We had to investigate and find out everything by making phone calls, and he was hard to get a hold of. And then we go to the range and he'd ignore us and he'd go the other way. And I said, well, he was getting ready for the tournament, you know. So she goes, oh. I said, well, he absolutely loved you, and he always talked about Marie Kelly and Kelly Murray, and he told me that story a few times, and he talked about his twin sister, and boy, did she look like Mo with a nice haircut, and oh my gosh, so that was my little story about Mo, and it's a kind of a long story, but it sort of tells you the character of Mo because he
Yeah.
was he was a sweet man, but he loved kids because he loved the innocence of kids. And what happened was every time he got involved with older people, like teenagers and so on, they'd either bully him or make fun of him when he was a kid, or as he got older and older, he had shysters in business. Like one time he signed an autograph. Mo Norman, he wrote on a paper for a guy in Edmonton, and the guy took that paper and built a contract around it, and then produced a golf ball called the Mo Norman golf ball, and sold it at Canadian Tire. So a guy came up to Mo one day, and I was there on the same course as Mo the day the guy came up to him, and the guy said, "Mo, I found one of your golf balls," and Mo thought it was a Titleist, and he gave him this Mo Norman ball, and he goes, "Ooh, never seen this. What's this? What's this?" And I came up about maybe 10 minutes later, and Mo was already racking his brain, like, well, where'd this ball come from? What? And he kept saying, "Again, where'd you get it?" He goes, "Oh, I found it. I found it in the rough." He goes, "Well, I know, but where'd it come from? What is this? What kind of a ball is this?" And it turns out Mo didn't want to get a lawyer or anything, but he asked a few people, and they talked to a lawyer, and the lawyer looked into it, and there was some guy had a patent or whatever for the Mo Norman golf ball in Edmonton, but Mo didn't have any funds to fight him, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And at that same time, Mo was going through this thing where his teeth hurt so bad that he had all his teeth pulled out except six of them, and he was going to have all these like whatever you call plants put in, right?
Implants.
So,
Yeah.
but he gets to the dentist and he wouldn't let the dentist give him any Novocaine or anything. He just said, "Just pull them out, pull them out. They hurt so bad." He pulled them out, and then he shoved cotton batting in Mo's mouth, and he went home. And the guy said, "Okay, come back in 2 weeks, and we'll have everything ready to put back in." And Mo never went. He went the opposite direction from that. He never went anywhere near that dentist office ever again. So he spent the rest of his life with six teeth. And he says, I said, "Why didn't you go back, Mo? We had everything ready. He just wants to put it in." I played with the dentist in a pro-am. About 2 years later, he says, "Mo never came back. I don't understand." He says, "You're a friend with him. Go tell him to come back. We've got everything there waiting for him." And I said to Mo, and he goes, "No, guy almost killed me. I was bleeding for a day and a half. Oh, my face was sore. Oh, I'm not going to go through that again." I said, "Mo, they've done everything. Now they just have to stick it in place. You're done." "Oh, not going near that guy. Almost killed me." And he says, "Don't bring it up again, pal. Oh, don't bring it up again." So I just said, "Okay, Mom, I'm just telling you, it's ready." "No," I told, "don't bring it up again." I said, "All right, all right, all right." So I just changed the subject and never talked to him about his teeth again.
So let's dispel the myths about the autism and stuff like that. So you would know, like people say
Well,
all kinds of things about Mo, but I don't think that
Well,
that.
one of the things he has is those people with the spectrum that he has, they don't ever look you in the eye, and Mo could never look me in the eye ever. Every time we talked, he if he's looking at me right at me, and I'm looking to the side, and as soon as I swing my head over and look at Mo, he looks away, and then when he looks away, I'm looking at him, and then I look away, and then he looks back at me again, and then he's looking away, and he's looking at me, and he's looking away. No, it's really strange. He could never look me in the eye. And one day
He
he
did
grabbed.
look me in the eye,
No,
but it
but
was
one day he
weird
grabbed me
because
by
when
the
he'd look
cheek.
at me, he would look through me. I mean, you
I
could
know, but
tell like he was just
I
looking
know.
right through.
Yeah, one day he grabbed me by the cheek as hard as a guy could do it. And I thought he was going to rip my cheek right off my body. He's like this, and he's looking not only through me, but he's looking right at me like, "Woo!" He's, "Woo!" You just relax when you play, okay? And I'm like, okay. You know what? Hey, John, one of my favorite times. You got to the tour in '87, but around '83. I'm having a practice round with Mo at a very tight golf course. I mean, you mentioned tight golf courses in Canada, but this was really tight. I think it was called Emerald Hills or somewhere. But the 13th hole was a strong carry off the tee, the back tee,
Now,
and the
now what
conditions.
tournament? What tournament was this?
I think it was like a tournament players championship, or it was a big tournament in Ontario. However, I'm just saying the 13th hole at this particular golf course, the tees when they're back, it was about a 270-yard carry over the left side of the creek, and about a 240-yard carry over the right side of the creek. And there's a bridge at about 215 to 230 on the far right But if you go anywhere near the bridge, it was all like big bushes and stuff. But as the creek diagonally cut across the fairway, of course, the longer left you hit it, the more you had to carry it. And there was a jungle on the right side by the bridge, and the left side was unplayable lies everywhere. And we got up to the tee box, and there was a 2-group wait, and we're having a practice round. And I said to Mo, I go, "Ooh, this is an interesting hole." And he goes, "Ooh, nice, nice, yeah, 430 par 4, good hole, good hole." And then guys were like, trying to hit 3-wood as hard as they could over the right side of the creek, and they were steering driver, and some guys were not sure how to play the hole, and they're just taking forever. And Mo just got up there and said, he just held a ball in the palm of his hand, just had it in his hand like he had hold an egg. And he just looked at me and he goes, "Look, ball fits in my hand. These guys are worried about fitting into 35 yards. Oh, the ball fits 5,000 times across the fairway, end to end, touching. Worry about your 5,000 first drive, not your first drive." And when I got to that hole, I couldn't wait to get to 13 all week because the ball would fit in the fairway. Mentally, he hit a note in my head that made me realize the ball will fit, and I couldn't wait to play that hole. So at the end of each day, Mo said, "How'd it go?" And I said, "Ooh, birdied 13 today." He goes, "Oh, good. Picked up 2 on the field, maybe 3, maybe 3." So and then there's another hole probably 2 years before that. So when I first got to know him, we got to another situation where we were playing and there was a backup and guys were reloading and hitting provisionals. So now they're hitting the 3rd off the tee and some guys were hitting the 5th shot off the tee, and Mo was just going like, "Woo," and he's bouncing his ball in his club and he's waiting and we're waiting. And then 2 groups go and then the 3rd group goes, but we've been waiting so long. And so we're so the first group goes, the second, we're the 3rd group. And then finally we're up. And then we got 2 groups piled up behind us. And I look at Mo and he's gone over to his bag and he's got out his 8-iron. And I'm not saying anything. I'm just looking at Mo because I just got to know him. I mean, I just barely, Albie sent me his way. And I spent the first summer sort of hanging around him best I could. And then the second summer, we were in there like Flint doing exhibitions together. And now here he is with an 8-iron on the tee. And he hits this 8-iron right up the middle of the fairway. And then he immediately, as it's in the air, he goes over and grabs his driver. Now he's got his driver out and he's sitting there bouncing another ball on his driver. And I said, "Good shot, Mo. What'd you hit?" He goes, "Oh, 8-iron, driving 8-iron, 8-iron the driver, whatever. Ooh, same. Ooh." I go, "What?" So I get up on the hole and I've put my driver away and I'm trying to hit a 1-iron and I'm thinking, man, I'm feeling pretty defensive. And he looked over at me and goes, "Ooh, for you it's only a driver and a wedge. Hit wedge first, then driver." And I'm a pretty good driver off the deck, so I took out 9-iron and hit out there and hit a little peel cut driver off the deck onto the front of the green about 30 feet away. And Mo goes, "Ooh, stress free." There's no picture on the scorecard, and look at you. You were smiling and laughing the whole way up the fairway. The other guys the other guy poopied their pants. Not me, not you, not me. And I'm like, "Wow, Mo, that was cool. What a lesson." And he said, "Oh, sure." He says, "Look at the guys are backing off driver. They're coming at it from the wrong side. They're coming back defensively. They got the driver out. Now they got the 3-wood. And now they're trying to make a 1-iron fit. Then they're going to a 2-iron, which these are hard clubs to hit. And if you're backing off and you hit in the rough, you're not in any good shape at all." He said, "Look at the hole." He goes, "Look at the hole. The first 270 yards in there, bowling alley. And then at the green, it opens up like 30 yards right of the bunker on the right and 40 yards on the left." He says, "It's wide open up there. It's like a driving range up there. But here, ooh, bowling alley." He says, so go at it the other way. Reverse the pressure. Stand on the tee and think, can I hit sand wedge? Sure. Can I hit wedge? Sure. Can I hit 9? Yes. Can I hit 8? Sure. Can I hit 7? Sort of. Can I hit 6? Oh, well, it's getting a little narrow for a 6. Go back to 9-iron. Can I hit 9? Oh, can I hit 8? Yeah. And then take out the 8 and rip the snot out of it up the middle. Coming at it from the other perspective, pal. Don't back down. Come into it. Attack the hole. Attack it. Attack it. Ooh, I'm not kidding, pal. Attack it. Okay, Mo. Ooh, and he's looking at me and so I was able to get in under severe pressure in tournaments, and the gallery's like flocking around thinking I'm going to drive the green. I pull out my wedge and I hit one down there and then hit driver off the deck up near a green somewhere and just get up and down and no stress. And it was fun. And people would look at me like, "What were you doing there?" I said, "Well, I don't know. You have to ask Mo." Ooh, thoughts become things, pal.
So
Thoughts
real
become
quick,
things.
just for the listeners here, you were the longest driver on the Canadian tour by far, but
Yeah.
didn't you win the World National Long Drive Championship?
Well, You know what I did, John, is I
I
was a
mean,
player.
you were the longest hitter there. I know that you. I mean, you did crazy stuff like on television. You drove it off the top of the CN Tower in Toronto. I remember
Yeah,
at the Basket River in Fort McMurray. It was like a big thing. You were trying to drive it 320 yards across the river and stuff. I
yeah.
mean, you were a
No,
spectacle, but also a
yeah.
great player, which was unusual because most of the time the long drive guys, weren't really good players. But you were a tour winner, and
Well,
also a long
okay,
hitter,
okay.
right?
Hold your thought there. Yes, I won. I won twice on the Canadian Tour, and I had 7 second place finishes. But you know what was really cool is Mo taught me that when you get to a par five and you want to get home in two, you can't just get up there and beat the piss out of your driver 3 or 4 times and be hitting 3 off the tee, 5 off the tee. He says, "How many balls you get in the long drive?" I said, 3. Because win with your first ball, just like you're playing a par five, pal. Don't be sitting there trying to hit like the long driver guys. No, you're a player, man. Hit the fairway with your power fade. That's what you got. Is make sure the heel of the club always gets the ball ahead of the toe. Make sure the heel gets there ahead of the toe. He says, if you do that, everything is perfect. He says that you can look at it a different way if you want. He says, and I'm going to try to set up a situation where I can actually put my phone here and you can see me demonstrating golf a little bit more. So if
Okay.
I'm coming into impact and I've got a club head right here, the heel leads the toe at all times as it's coming into impact. The heel always leads the toe.
Yeah.
So, but Mo said to me, on purpose, he said to me up front at the very beginning, instead of the heel leads the toe, he goes, ooh. He says, if there's a plane of glass right here, he said, I'm set up, 17 degrees behind there. I can reach my right knee with my right hand. He says, I'm set up behind the ball, 17 degrees from 90. I'm set up 17 behind, and I'm hitting from behind, right in from behind the ball. And he says, as I'm in that position, I'm in a position of power. And the first thing that would break this pane of glass that's right here, which is where the golf ball is, first thing to break the pane of glass is my left shoulder, and then my elbow, and then my wrist, and then my fingers, then the club head, the heel before the toe. So we get all that going on, that sequence of events, all that would happen. He says, if the toe gets there first, look what happens. He said, so if the toe gets there first, look, the toe gets there to the ball first, then
Yeah.
the heel, and then your fingers, then your hands, then your elbows, then your shoulders. Ooh, that's backwards, pal. Hit it with this part. He says, a lot to think of. Just make sure the heel gets there before the toe. So I got up over a golf ball, and I would turn 130 degrees behind the ball,
Yep. Yep.
and then I would push off like a baseball pitcher.
Yep. Absolutely.
I'd do a hockey hip check.
Yep.
Then I'd throw in a slap shot, and then
Yeah.
a karate chop, and then go into a warrior pose.
Yep.
So I put in yoga, I put in baseball, I put in
Martial
all my
arts.
hockey
Yep. Yep.
skills, but when doing that, all I made sure is that I kept my left cheek looking at the right side of the golf ball, and the heel got there ahead of the toe, and I just went ballistic. I pushed so hard off the pitcher's mound,
Yep.
as you will, and I gave it that hip check and the slap shot, the karate chop, and then the warrior pose, keeping that the left cheek looking at the right side of the ball, and the heel of my hand getting the ball first. And as long as the heel gets there ahead of the toe,
Yeah.
then you can't go wrong. You've eliminated half the golf course,
Yep.
and then I could take on Jerry Anderson.
All right.
Jerry and I roomed together in Australia when we first got down there. We had a practice round. We're getting ready for the Australian Masters, and I'm hitting driver sandwich, and he's hitting driver forward. And he goes,
All right.
Jesus.
Let's talk about Jerry for a second. People don't know who Jerry Anderson is. You and I know what an incredible golfer that guy was. I mean, one of the great players of the world, as far as I'm concerned. Didn't
He
get the
held the
exposure,
European
but
Tour.
that guy could play, right?
He had the European Tour record lowest score in the history of Europe at 27 under Kranz-Serre, Switzerland. When he won the European Open, he shot 27 under for 72 holes and held that record for many, 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 many years. And I think Colin Montgomery or someone snuck by him and shot 28 under at one point, maybe a couple other guys. But yeah, Jerry, Sherry Jerry.
Yeah.
He liked to shout at Sherry. The guys were drinking beers, and he's Sherry Jerry, very refined, and he loved his cigarettes. Jerry was quite a boy. Yes.
But Jerry would have done that in the persimmon era, right? So,
Yes.
as we know, it's a different game. I mean, if somebody comes along and breaks that record with frying pans and all that stuff later, we're
Yep.
not
Yep.
talking
Yep. Yep.
apples
Yep.
and apples here.
And you know something, John? I'm going to just show you my 3 Honda drivers here. These are the 3 that I set 3 Guinness World Records with. Now, these drivers are a little bit longer than normal, but they're all persimmon. And I was the last player on the Canadian Tour to have a persimmon club, other than probably John Erickson and maybe Vic Wilk or some other holdout. But people kept coming up to me, and one kid said to me, he goes, geez, he says, my grandpa's got clubs like that. They got screws on the bottom. Can you see the club head there when I'm pointing?
Yeah.
Let's see here. Yeah, right here. Can you see the screws?
Yeah. Move the, yeah, there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Screw
So
the
the
face.
kid, I hit one, and I said, I got that on the screws. And the kid looked at me, and of course he was young. I was probably 32 or so. He was probably 20, right out of college. And he says, my grandfather used to always say, hit it on the screws. And I showed him my persimmon club, and I said, that's the screws. He goes, oh, you got a club like my grandpa. And I said, I'm sorry about that. Yeah. And I said, well, I'm the last guy. And I said, the Honma Corporation out of Japan, the owner, Mr. Honma, and his brother, they started this business in their garage in Japan, and they said they would never make a metal club. So, and I condoned it. I said, no, never make a metal one. So I was one of the last guys using persimmons.
Now, do you hold the world record for the longest drive with a persimmon driver?
Oh, I think so, because what I did, John, is I said to my manager in Vancouver, I'll take on any man alive with a golf club for distance. So we brought in the current U.S. long drive champ from Euless, Texas. His name was Art Sellinger. He went on to becoming the president of the Long Drivers of America. So we took Art up on the World Trade Center in Vancouver, hitting into the Cole Harbor, Vancouver Harbor. And the mayor of Vancouver called it Golf Week in Vancouver. And the harbor master of the harbor of Vancouver closed the harbor for 1 hour, so the U.S. champ and the Canadian long drive champ could have a long drive championship and try to break Tony Jacquelin's record of 381 yards. So after 3 balls each, we would rotate 3 balls by 3 balls, and we hit 21 balls each. But after the first 3 balls, and then maybe this next 3, and the third 3 balls, Art got up to 400 yards. And he was so excited because we broke the record of 381. And Art's kind of celebrating up on the stage. And Art's a big Texan. And we did radio interviews and everything that morning before the long drive contest. We're staying at the Pan Pacific 5-star Hotel. And we're getting BMWs, their sponsor. And we're driving cars around. We're having a good time. And Art, we paid all his expenses. We paid his hotel, everything. And my manager was the one that instigated all these things. He used my Canadian Airlines sponsorship to use tickets to bring Art up. Art missed his flight out of Chicago. He was doing an exhibition on the way up. He missed his flight, and we had to get him a last-minute business class ticket. We used up most of my per diem for the year. So I was flying the Canadian tour on Canadian airline tickets, and we had to fly him out of Chicago, and it cost me like almost quadruple for a last-minute business class ticket because he stayed and had a couple of beers. It turned out, because I interviewed him a couple of days later. I said, "How'd you miss your flight?" He goes, well, I told the guys I'm in no rush. I can have a couple of beers. We'll just change my flight. And I went, oh, okay. That cost me about $4,000. Anyway, so anyways, Art hits at 400 yards, and then I hit at 413.6, and Art is going like, what is this all about? We got Geodometer of Canada measuring. We've got all the sponsors in their suits. We've got silver tea service with little sandwiches for all the sponsors up on the roof. So we got 200 people up on the rooftop. We're having this long drive. We got Geodometer Canada. We got Vancouver, what's it called? Granville Island Boat Rentals. They've got these boat jockeys that are just wizards, and they're bombing around, and they've got a prism in their hand. And as soon as the ball hits the water, they zip over there, and they hold the prism right where the bubbles are coming up out of the water. And from Geodometer Canada, right where we're teeing off, they zap it, and they go 300 and, let's see, it was 413.6 yards. And Art goes, what? Well, when he hit at 400, I didn't make a word. I just said, wow, that's nice. And then Art was getting all pissy. Then I hit at 422.3 and established a new world record from sea level into the ocean, all carry. So Art was like, oh, yeah, well, this is fixed. Let's see what happens on ground. We had 5 more contests during the week, and I beat them all 5 times. At Point Grey, we had the BC Long Drive Championship. Then we went to university and did an exhibition. We went to Pitt Meadows Golf Club and a couple other places. And I was knocking it by him all week. He couldn't take it. And at the end of the week, the newspaper, Vancouver Sun, said, corpulent Art Sellinger who resembles a wayward vacuum cleaner in the media sandwich room where the people are, you know. Anyways, so Art went on to become the president of Long Drivers America. He called me up and said, "Hey, will you become a member?" And I said, "Sure." He says, "It's $25 a year, and you get a dozen balls and a hat and everything." I said, "Oh, okay, no problem." So I did that every year. I joined his Long Drivers, and he built the thing and all that. Well, the following year, I said to my manager, let's bring in the Japanese driving champion as well. So we brought Mike Gorton out of California from Santa
Yeah.
Barbara, and we
Hmm.
brought Yasushi Taki, 4-time long drive champ from Japan. So we had
Yeah.
the current US champ, the current Japanese champ, and the current Canadian long drive champ up on the building the next year, pouring rain. And I don't know if you remember Brad, you were a buddy of mine, but he was one of the guys that helped manage my career. And Brad, he's on the phone, and we have BC Cellular back when cell phones just came out, and he's on the phone up on top of the roof calling the airport in Vancouver saying, "Yes, this is Brad Ewart. We're on top of the World Trade Center, establishing a world record here with the U.S. and Japanese and Canadian long drive champions, and we're just checking on the weather." So Brad's mom's on the line going, "Brad, this is your mom." "Yes, sir." "And so it's clearing?" "I see. It's pouring rain out. We're going to cancel the whole contest." But Brad's going, "Oh, it's clearing? And it's moving to the north." "Okay, good. Well, we'll go ahead with our contest. And thank you very much." And he hangs up. His mom's going, Brad, is that you?" And then, so Brad gets off the phone and he tells me afterwards, because I'm going, "Brad, how is this clearing?" And he goes, "Don't worry about it. I got it covered." Well, Brad, what happened was he called his poor mom, and poor mom answers the phone and he's treating her like she's the airport traffic control guy with the weather pattern. And
Oh,
so we went on
I
with the
see. Yeah,
contest.
yeah,
Yeah, Mike Gordon, a California boy, was worried about falling off the roof. He was worried about swinging hard and flipping off the roof, 110 stories, or what is it, 100? Yeah, what was it, 90 story? I don't know, whatever. It was a
yeah,
big drop.
yeah, yeah.
And Yasushi Taki, but we got going in the contest. We all hit our 21 balls each, and then I beat those guys again the next year. So with that said, these wooden persimmons and me, we just went everywhere, and I said, "I'll take any man alive on." So whether it was in the Philippines or Canada, or like you thought about Fort McMurray, I remember one time we had a contest in trying to get across the Richelieu River up in Montreal area somewhere, and it was like a little town, and it was holding the Quebec Open, and Mo Norman had taught me that if you're going to tee it up high, you can hit it further. So we were hitting off Coke bottles during practice sessions. So I get there, and to the river to cross, the river's on a downslope as the bank gets closer to the water, and that's where they're holding the tee shots. So guys are trying to tee up a 2 and 1/4 inch tee, John, back before even 2 and 3/4 inch tees. They got
Yeah,
a
yeah.
little tee, and they're barely sticking it in, and they're
Right.
trying to swing on a downslope to carry it over a river. So I looked at the gallery and there's some guy drinking a beer, and I said, "Hey, finish your beer." And the guy goes, "Tabernacle, what, excuse
Tabernacle.
me,
I remember. Yeah, right,
excusez-moi,
right.
excusez-moi." And I said, "Beer, verre de beer, glass, por favor." And he finishes his beer and he gives me the cup. I turn it upside down, put the ball on it, and I immediately rip it over the far side of the river, which is, I guess, probably 300 something, and it flew into the trees on the far side. And no one was coming within 20 yards of clearing the shoreline. So I fly it not only 20 yards further, but then another 30 yards up the bank and then into the trees. So maybe 50 yards past where the guys were getting. And and so now they're going, "Oh man." And I said, "So Latancia is the sponsor, it's the milk company." I said, "So is that $300 for anybody that can knock it over? Is that per ball?" And the guy goes, "No, just if they can knock it over. Hey, just the once." So I just said thanks, and I walked away. And they go, "No, can I hit? You got 2 more balls." I go, "No, I've already knocked it over. Got my 300." I said, "Well, if we're gonna do 300 a ball," and they're all going, "Come on, Cal lead." So I get up there and I put the ball in the cup. I took the same swing, but this time I just aimed at the middle of the cup, and the ball fell straight down. And I just put my arms in the air again and walked off the stage, and everybody was laughing. People still remember that years later. But the bottom line was, I was being cheeky, and if I'm not going to get paid, I'm not hitting the shot, because I'm not going to just go to the top of the ninth, bases loaded, and just throw heat every time, because my body got beat up towards the end, and right now my feet are getting older than most of my golf equipment, but they're persimmon.
Yeah, but okay, so let's talk about, I'm big on the mass of the club. All these formulas the scientists talk about Force
Yes.
equals mass times acceleration, momentum, P equals mv. There's an M in that equation. Trackman machines, all this stuff, there's nowhere to put in that mass. There's nowhere to, they're using some kind of stock algorithm or something, assuming that people are swinging, a 10 or 11-ounce driver. You were going heavy, 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 heavy. And I think that's an interesting conversation because you're the longest driver in the world and you were going big on the mass, right? You were swinging the 1 pound club like Mo was, right?
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And can I tell you a little bit what I know on that, and maybe I'll answer some of the questions and give the audience a kind of an understanding. Mo said to me that the heavier the mass is of the club, the heavier you're swinging like a 1 pound club. The more you do that, the more it loads the little digits of your body. Like the more the load happens. And I said, "Oh, interesting." He says, "Oh, you can't come over the top when you've got that much momentum behind you. Oh, when you move into the ball,
Yes.
that club is getting deeper into the turn,
Yep.
and
Absolutely.
you're accentuating the angles, and you're going to hit it further and straighter." Ooh. He says, the equipment comes, you're going the wrong way. They're making them lighter. He goes, "Look at that new kid. Look at that new kid." And I go, "What new kid?" He's that new guy, the Tiger guy. And I go, and this is when Tiger first made the scene and was first on TV, and back in August 29th, 1992, when I think that was the year, and he came out, but it was August 29th. It was my birthday, and I remember Mo and I were in the clubhouse, and we saw Tiger swing. He goes, look at that guy. And I said to him, I said, "You know what I've read? His arms are 2.5 inches longer than mine." And Mo goes, "Oh shit! Then he needs a 42-inch driver." Oh, and no wonder he can't hit a fairway. This is what he told me in subsequent years. Oh, and he's the worst at aiming at fairways. He and Mickelson, these guys are the champions. They're so far offline. Tiger's got those 2.5 inch longer arms than you, and he's hitting a 45-inch driver, and he's hitting it out of the jungles everywhere. Oh, jeez. And how lighter. Look how light the clubs are. He's going to wreck his back and his knees. You watch.
Yes. Yep.
He's moving so quick with that light stuff. Oh, holy crap. He's with the big clubs. Oh, boy, that's when you build yourself. He says, you and I were hitting 4, 5, 10 buckets a day with these heavy clubs, and we're building golf muscle. We're building. We have muscle memory. The other guys, they're just getting up there and flicking at it. Oh, they're going to hurt themselves. Golf's gone. The industry's gone the wrong way.
Yeah.
Mark my words. He says, "I'm 50 years ahead of my time." Mark my words. He says, "Soon they'll start to figure it out. First, they'll get it with putters. They'll build bigger handles on putters. You and I have 11 layers of tape under our clubs." I'm going to try to hold this up so you can see, like this old club. And if you can see underneath the grip, there's 11 layers of tape under there. Let's see. Can you see some of that?
Yeah. Okay. A little bit
I'm going
more.
to try to
Raise it up a little bit more.
peel some of that back just so you can. There's 11 layers of tape. That took a long time to make that up and get that. Oh, are we reconnecting? What happened there?
No, we're on. We're on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but 11 layers of tape took a long time to wrap on. Now they make the Jumbo Max grip, which I use religiously, and I use the XL, and it's big, and you hold on soft. And Mo told me, he says, the straighter you can hit it. He says, just like a kid driving a school bus. He says, "You're scared out there." He says, "But you're nervous, but you got a big school bus. You've got to turn that wheel a long way to go around a corner. A little
Mhm.
wheel, you just slight turn you around a corner.
Yeah.
So the bigger the handle, the straighter you hit it." He says,
Yeah.
"Mark my words, I'm 50 years ahead of my time. They'll first get it with putters." And then KJ Choi came along, and it was precisely 15 years after he started telling me about grips. KJ won a tournament on the PGA Tour using the Super Stroke putter grip, and it was big. And all of a sudden, everybody started buying them and putting them on as putters. But nobody was thinking we should put them on our clubs as well. And then, he said, "I'm 50 years ahead of my time. First, they'll figure it out with, he said, "I'm 50 years ahead of my time." He says, "First, they'll figure it out with putters. And then after putters, about 15 years after that, they'll figure it out on clubs." And that's when, Colin Montgomery won the Order of Merit in Europe 8 times in a row, and he had 10 layers of tape under his handles. Bubba Watson had 13 layers under his lower hand, which is his left hand. He had 13 layers of tape. I always had 11 layers. Mo had 10 layers under the handles.
Interesting.
And so I said to Mo, I said, how'd you figure out, how'd you validate that? And he goes, "Ooh, one day I was hitting balls. It was about 7 a.m. I was in a quiet neighborhood, and all I could hear was the hammering sound of a carpenter. And he was out building a house, and I walked across the range and across the course, and I went to the house, and there was this guy up on a ladder. He had a mouthful of nails, and he was just putting up drywall, and he's just taking a nail and hammering it in and taking one out of his mouth. And I was watching him. I said, "Ooh, how come you got such a big handle on that?" He almost fell off the ladder when I asked him how come he almost, why you get such a big handle on that hammer? Why you get such a big handle on that hammer? And the guy took the nails out of his mouth, and he goes, "Well, my daddy said that I can go 8 hour shift, just hitting a nail, just throwing the hammerhead, and just holding this big hammer. I'm very relaxed on a bigger handle." Oh, and Mo said, "Well, do you play golf?" And the guy goes, "Oh, I went out with my uncles and my dad and stuff, but I just sliced the ball and I got blisters and I didn't like it." Ooh. I said, "Well, did you tell the guy maybe he should build his grips up on his clubs?" He goes, "Oh, he's a carpenter. He should know. He should know." I said, "You didn't tell me?" He goes, "No, no. He's smart enough to figure it out himself. He's a carpenter." "Well, you don't want to bend a nail. That's lost productivity. The nail bends. You got to put it on the cement and bend it straight, and then put it back and try to do it again. No, that's loss of productivity and time." So for golf, I mean, guys are hitting the left, right, and they got the small handle, and they're twirling their hands, and they're spilling drinks. Oh, it's a mess out there. Oh,
So,
oh.
what was the relationship between Mo and George Knudsen?
They loved to play golf with each other, but they didn't like to putt, so they'd go out and play flag sticks and 150 markers. So on the par fours that were like 400 yards, they would just aim at the 150 marker, and if you hit the 150 marker or the flag from at least 100 yards, so if the hole is like, say, 249, you got 99 yards to the 150 marker, that wouldn't count. It has to be 100. So if you hit the 150 marker off the tee, you go, "Oh, George hit the 151 hop," and then at the flag, you hit the flag, and then they just pick up the ball and go to the next hole. So it was just they played flag sticks. So one day there was kids like Todd Hamilton and these other characters that came out, and they were like rink rats around the chipping and putting greens. Remember Todd Hamilton? He'd be out there for hours and hours and hours and hours, just chipping and putting in his tennis shoes. And I thought, well, that's kind of he looks like a college guy. And then he went on to win the British Open. But
Right.
it was his work ethic around the greens that helped him on that. And
Sure.
for me, I remember one day I decided that my short game wasn't up to snuff, and I wanted to sharpen it up a little bit. So I was doing a bunch of Albie Thompson drills, which is
Yeah.
Mo's old buddy that we talked about, your coach, my coach.
Yeah.
But Albie was my coach for 7 years, so I'd always give myself a refresher every month or so and just spend the whole day. So Mo gets out there in the morning with George, and it's pretty early. It's before the galleries are there, and they tee off. And by the time they get to the turn, there's about 20 people trying to run behind these two guys and try to keep up to watch them play. By the time they come up 18, there's about 400 people watching them. They go over and have lunch, and they get on the first tee again. There's like 200 people, and all of a sudden it grows to 1,000 people coming down the back nine on a practice day. And I'm putting the whole time. And I said to Mo, how'd it go today? How'd you do against George? He goes, "Woo, lost $20. I hit 2 flag sticks. He hit 3." They played $20 a flag stick. Mo lost
Mo
20.
told me I asked him what his best round was. He said, "Oh, 6 pins, 6 pins." Yeah.
Yeah, see, there you
And
go.
I thought it was bullshit because I mean, come on, nobody's gonna hit 6 pins in a round. I went out to Madera Country Club north of Fresno, when I was at my peak ball striking, and I hit the pin 3 times in a round. And
Yeah,
and
that's
I
nice.
thought, you know what? If I can hit 3 pins, Mo could hit six.
Yeah,
For sure,
yes,
right?
Joe.
So
And no,
I do believe it. I do believe
I'll
that
vouch,
Mo did
I'll
that.
vouch
I
for
do.
you. I'll vouch for you on that. You're a ball striker. You were a hell of a ball striker. You're always a ball striker. You understand the science of the game. So did Mo. And when you're ball striking, but Mo's advantage was his autistic angle. And just the way that everything repeats, and he just loves to repeat. So Fort McMurray, Alberta, back in, it was tar sands at the time. This was like 1980 or 81, and we're playing in the pro-am up there at the tar sands thing. And now a tar sands green is radius of 15, so it's 30 yards wide by 30 yards. It's a 30-yard circle, 15-yard radius, and the pin is always right dead center in the middle of this tar sand green. So Mo missed the ninth green, and there was some guys in the gallery that were heckling him, and a lot of people came out to see Mo hit a bad shot. One time, here's a side story, but one time I remember on a driving exhibition we were doing, he was hitting range balls, and the ball went out and did a hook slice because it had wings on it. And some guy was going, "Oh, Mo, that ball didn't go straight. That ball didn't go straight. It hooked and then it sliced." And Mo goes, "Ooh, you cheap bastard, you cheap bastard. Go to the pro shop, buy me a dozen balls. Buy me a dozen balls. Come out here and see what I can really do. Come on. Hey, you cheap bastard." And the guy just kind of shied away, and Mo goes, "Come on, you cheap bastard. Go buy me some balls. Go buy me some balls." And finally, the guy went and he came back with a dozen top flights. He goes, "Ooh, I told you you were cheap. Top flights, top flights. Ooh, I told you you were cheap." So, anyways, Mo put down those top flights, took out driver, and just striped him at this 250 thing, and it was bouncing around beside it the whole time. So, anyways, he's at Fort McMurray. He misses the ninth green from about 134 yards. He had a bad lie and missed the green. And so some guy goes, "Oh, Mo, how could you miss the green? I thought you didn't miss greens." He goes, "Oh, put your money where your mouth is, pal." And the guy said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "So come on, I'll bet you I can hit it 100 times in a row, 100 times in a row. Put money on it. Put $100 on it. Let's go 100 times in a row." And the guy just sort of, yeah, whatever. And he kind of harassed Mo a bit more, and then off he went. The round was over. Everybody was in at the dinner, and everybody's wondering, well, where's Mo? He finished third in the tournament. We're handing out prizes. Mo wasn't anywhere to be seen. He never misses a meal. And it was discovered that he was on the ninth hole hitting his shag bag at the ninth green, and he had 140 on the green by the time they figured out Mo was out there. And they're going, Mo, they got a check for you. You got $200. He goes, "Oh, I know. I could have made an extra 100 if the guy would have been man enough to pay me." he, he had 100 from that same spot. He had 140, 138 balls in a row, and then he came in for dinner.
I'm going to
Yeah.
interject something here because this is just one of the great moments of you and me. We're playing Fort McMurray, and you remember
You
the
and I
mosquitoes?
we
The
were playing.
mosquitoes were this big. They were big, as big as
Oh,
your hand, right? And
mosquito
Kellen
jacket.
Murray comes to the first tee in a complete body suit of net over his face, the body that you were completely protected from the mosquitoes. And I'm just like, and then you go out and shoot like 68 or whatever in this like bodysuit of mesh. I mean, it was just like,
You know,
we were playing with Stephen Ames, I think, that day, if I remember right. And you come out in that body, and we're just going like this with mosquitoes, and you're just totally. Where did you come up with a complete body mosquito net to go?
hey, John, that
Oh,
is so funny. So there's Mark Sushak is the pro at this golf club at the time. Mark Sushak played the tour for many years with Bob Panasuk and George and Mo and Alvy and all the guys. And Mark had brain cancer, and he became the head pro at Miskinaw for the Fort McMurray, tournament where we went to play. I walked into the shop. I said, "These mosquitoes are killing me." He says, "Kelly, I got the secret thing for you." I go, "What's that?" And he says, "I'll give you my pro costume." He says, "It's been sitting there in the bag for 3 years. No one's bought it." And I go, "What is it?" And he goes, "It's mosquito net." He says, you put this jacket, and it's got a hood on it and everything, and it's got long sleeves and everything, got pull strings on it." He says, "You put it in the bag and you dump this deep woods off in there and you marinate it overnight and then you put it on." He says, "The mosquitoes won't come within 5 feet of you." He says, I said, "Because it's bloody hot. I can't wear long sleeves." He goes, "No. It's just a net. So underneath you just have your light shirt and your pants on, and then you put the netting on." So I didn't think anything of it. I show up and I guess I was playing with you and Steve, and you had to subject yourself to that. I'm sorry about that, but I didn't get any bites, and I'm kind of
You didn't
allergic to
know, and you played
mosquitoes.
great that day too. And it was just, that's the kind of thing we don't see in pro golf anymore, right? I mean, the
Yeah,
characters around and just the
I
spectacle
know.
and the stuff. I mean, it was
Well,
really
listen, John, we were,
different
we were,
times.
you talked about going to the Canadian tour with Vic Wilk. I imagine you guys fly in, you rent a car. I mean, it's not cheap. It's not cheap, and you had to sort of like buddy up and have 2, 3 guys in a hotel room, sometimes four.
Yeah,
You know, I remember getting to a tournament, and I got there a little bit late, and I didn't make any hotel reservation. I thought, well, I won't worry about it. But it was to the point where there was no spots available. So I got to the front desk and I said, "I don't have a room." And they said, "Oh, well, you know, is there somebody that maybe you can call to room with?" And I said, "Where's your list?" So they gave me the list, and I said, "Oh, there's Norm Jarvis." I called, the thing didn't answer. So I thought, well, I don't know who Norm's rooming with. So anyways, I just called on the list, and I just called whoever, and they'd answer, and I said, "I need a roommate. Are you got an extra bed there?" Oh my God. Anyways, I met a lot of the different guys, the American kids that were coming up, and I was bumping into all these guys who went on to win lots of tournaments. I mean, these guys were extraordinary golfers. Like, for instance, when I went out and caddied for Eric Compton at the Canadian Open, I went on for 20. I played 22. I caddied 22 tournaments for him. He took me to Dubai, Qatar. We played practice round with Rory McIlroy over in Dubai. We We played with Todd Hamilton, and Eric's clubs didn't show up in guitar, so we were using Todd's Titleist clubs because Eric was a Titleist player during the practice round. We were sharing out of the one bag, but we were all these different stories over all these years, but the main thing was when we got to Canada, we had to love the game because there was no money, and there's still no money for the North American tour guys. There's just $0 really. I don't understand how it all works, but
Yeah, yeah.
the Live Tour came in, the U.S. Tour started paying guys $5 million a season if they get their card. One of my students just graduated. His name is Zachary Beauchou. He was an Oklahoma State Cowboy. January 1st, he's going to have 500,000 in his bank account, and he finished 12th on the money list at the Corn Ferry this year. So now he's playing the U.S. Tour. He was my student for 7 years. I taught him all Mo Norman drills when he was a kid. His dad drove 4.5 hours to bring this little boy, Zach Beauchou, to my driving range in Virginia, and I taught natural golf and power driving. And I had him do grass cutting drills, which is something that keeps you in posture and has you stay down. It's like you're swinging like a windshield wiper back and forth on the grass, staying in posture. And you start with the left side and you swing down to the ground, and then from the right side down to the ground and the left, and you stay in that same posture. And then after about 4 or 5 of those, you can take momentum of your forward swing up to a finish, then finish high to the sky. So I got Zach to do that drill every day. Now they say he's one of the best ball strikers on the Corn Ferry Tour. He absolutely flagged it, but he got down at the end where to make his card, he started cross-handed chipping, and then he was doing reverse claw grip. He's got left hand low and the left hand claw. So it's like, his left hand is going this way towards the flag as a claw, and his right hand is up here. Anyways, it's a funny little situation, but all these little kids that are out on the tour now, I mean, they struggle. Zach was Oklahoma State Cowboy with Victor Hovland, Matt DeWolf, Austin Eckroat, and a few others. But anyways, they won the NCAAs, and they were champion golfers. And it came down to them winning a repeat. And they got down to the last hole, and Zach Beauchou, the previous day, shot 29 on the last 9. It was the previous year that he shot 29 to win the cup. Then the next year they're playing again at Oklahoma State Cowboys, and Zach Beauchou, who I taught all the Mo Norman stuff to, he hits fairways. He's very good. He got down to the very last hole and he missed a 6-footer, and they would have been repeat champions. And they made a deal: if we don't win back to back, instead of going for the three-peat, Victor Hovland and the boys, they said, we're all going to turn pro. And they all turned pro. As soon as that putt missed, they just all hugged and whatever. We didn't win, and we're turning pro. And then they all went out and made millions of dollars. Zach was still heartbroken by missing that putt, and then he went to the tour school and he didn't make it to the final stage. And then he went over to Asia, got his card. Then COVID hit, so he had nowhere to play for 3 years because he didn't play. And so then he went to the Live Tour qualifier and finished 5th, and they only had 3 cards. And then he got to the Corn Ferry, and he was leading it coming down the stretch last year. He was leading top 30 that they were giving cards out to, and he was like 27th all the way along, and he was doing great, and he was doing just fine. And all of a sudden, he finished double bogey, and missed by one shot. And so he had to play a whole season on the Corn Ferry, and he finished 12th, and now he's one of the top 20 graduating. So watch for Zach Beauchou, and when you see his swing, you're looking at a little Mo Norman out there. They call him
Okay,
the
so
best ball striker on
I
Corn
want to
Ferry.
dispel something here. People say, "Oh, I hear it all the time. Oh, Mo wasn't a long hitter. He's a short hitter, blah blah blah." But here's you, a protege of Mo, the longest hitter in the world at the time. So,
Yeah.
so can you
So
splice those two things
yeah,
together?
well, something about hitting a golf ball right on the sweet spot, right on the screws. When you hit it there, it goes far, and if
Yeah.
it's a straight line, it's the shortest route to the flag. So
Right.
he was the longest, straightest driver you'll ever see because he wore out the middle of the club face, he wore out the middle of the fairway, could hit it where he was looking, he could angle it to the right side of the fairway if the pin was back left, and so on. One of the very first times, and I know that I can hit it a long way, but I did a lot of yoga, so I pushed the envelope, and I was a baseball pitcher, and I was very fast, and they always brought me in at the end of the game when I was 12, 13 years old, because I could pitch fast, and the other guys, I could strike them out. And then but I was tiny and I never had a home run. Then I grew 11 inches between grade 10 and 11. So I got this little sort of mini Hitler kind of attitude where I can really hit it hard. I'm like Vic Wilk, I'm just a little guy. I can hit it hard. but then I grew 11 inches. So all of a sudden I was hitting at 40 yards by all my buddies. All just overnight between grade 10 and 11, I grew 11 inches.
Wow.
All of a sudden, like now I'm 6'1 3/4", and it's like I used to be just over 5 feet. And so I took all that energy and all that, the pitching ability. And I could really hit a hockey puck or a tennis ball. I could really smack stuff hard, and I could really throw a ball a country mile. So when you put all that together, yeah, you can hit the ball long, but then using most fundamentals, the heel leading the toe, the heel leading the toe, the heel leading the toe, you can't go wrong. The heel leads the toe. Oh, and so Mo said to me one day, he goes, look down that fairway. He says, for me as a straight hitter, it's not easy. He says, I hit it down, it's 30 yards wide. I got 15 yards right of my ball, 15 yards left. He says, you like to play that fade. You're aiming it down the out of bounds on the left there. You got 20 yards of rough, 40 yards of fairway, and 20 yards. You got 24. You got 80 yards to aim it into. I've only got 15 on each side of my ball. That's for me. But I'm not worried about that because I'm splitting the fairway, and that's what I do. But you're hitting it long, and you're hitting with a fade. He said, fade is the best way to go. Look at Lee Trevino. He says, if you're going to hit a shot, but I tell you, he says, like one day, this will really tell you about not only long hitting, but solid hitting and striking the ball hard. Jim Furyk became a really good buddy of Eric Compton and I on the tour because we played Aronimink. And, Mike Cowan, Fluff, as they call him, was caddying. And this is a guy that went on to caddy for not only Jim, but also Tiger Woods and Peter Jacobsen. But Fluff and I played golf together a couple of times. We lived in the Washington, D.C. area. And so when I'm caddying at Aronimink, he's still there.
Okay, we're back with part two.
Part two, baby.
Part two with Kelly Murray, the legend, the Murr. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
not only is it part two, but it's a never-ending story about Mo Norman because it goes
Yeah,
on and on and on.
you can go on for 20 hours. I mean, you knew Mo a lot better than I did. I mean, I was up there 7 years, spent, a lot of time with Mo, but I mean, your history with Mo is just
Well,
way beyond.
yeah, and I was just going to share a Jim Furyk story, and I thought that your audience would like it too because
Yeah.
Jim's a real aficionado. As you know, he shot a 59, then he went on to shoot a 58, and he loves ball striking, and he loves to knock it into the pin, and he loves Mo Norman stories. So when he was on tour, and I'd be on tour with Eric, I get out there early, and I'm trying to map out the greens, and all of a sudden I bump into Jim. Half hour later, we're still telling Mo Norman stories on the side of the green. Letting groups through and just, having fun. So I told him the story about Mo one day was saying to me that, Kelly, he goes, woo, he says, I said to Mo, I said, well, how far do you hit a 7-iron? He goes, 151. And I'm like, no, actually, sorry. He's 157. And I'm sitting there thinking 157. Now, is this at sea level? Is this like mountain? Is this like, how 157? He goes, sure. And then he put his arm in the air like this, making the flag stick, and he goes, pins it 150. Let's see, pins at 158, pins at 158, and I landed in at 156. He goes to 159 and comes back to 157. He said, I have two chances to go in. So I'm telling this story to Jim Furyk, and Jim goes, whoa, that's heavy. And I go, well, I know. Every time he hit a shot, he goes, two chances. And I go, so now I'm figured out, okay, so he hits his 7-iron, 157 yards. So imagine the ball coming in, and then Mo goes, whoa, it had 18 hole-in-ones, 13 coming back, and 5 on the way in. He says, oh, boy. He says, Trevino, he says, you like to fade the ball, Kelly, but it's Trevino, he's a smart guy. He fades the ball. But he only has one chance at eagle because when it lands and it spins and it goes at the hole, and it misses, he's giving himself the easiest putt for a right-hander, right to left putt coming back.
Right.
But he says the hookers, they got one chance, they got the toughest putt in golf. Bet that guy. Anybody that hooks the ball, bet that guy. Oh, sure. Jim says, I think I'm going to start hitting it straighter. I said, I think you should. And then he shot 58 about a month and a half later. But Jim Jim was trying to bring it in at the flag and have it go in twice as well. So he was getting all fired up. He was just starting to think like a Mo. Ooh, sure. So, matter of fact, you should send Jim a copy of this. It'll refresh his brain, and maybe he'll start winning on the Champions Tour again. But the guy's
Yeah.
he's an extraordinary freak of nature, Jimmy Furyk. And I said to Eric, Eric, after playing with him, we were at LA Open the following week or 2 weeks later, and Jim came walking into the locker room, and he's all excited about getting a milkshake because they make really good milkshakes at this locker room in LA at the Riviera Country Club. And he goes, and I said, Jim, Eric's got a question for you. And Eric looked at me, and he goes, and this is Eric Compton, not Eric Erickson, not John Erickson. So old Eric Compton goes, I don't have a question for him. I go, no, that's Jim. He's the ATM machine, man. We got to talk to him. What are you talking about? I was writing for a magazine called Pros and Hackers at the time. So I had my notepad out, and I said, Eric's got a question for you. He gets his milkshake, comes, changes his shoes, comes and sits beside us. He's got a towel around his neck. He's sitting there in his underwear. And Jim is as white as a ghost, except for a golfer farmer tan. And we're sitting there, and I'm looking at Jim thinking, this is one of the best golfers in the world. This is funny. But anyways, he's a sexy guy. And so he's sitting there, and I said, well, here, let me ask the question. And Eric's just going like, I have no question. I go, Jim, what is it about your swing and, the fact that your dad was your teacher and you've never changed anything? And he says, hey, well, here's the deal. He says, Eric, you're a top 70 player. And I'm writing this down. I go, define that. He goes, well, you're top 70. So like, let's say you shoot 73 the first round. You're going to come back with 65 the next day and you're going to be top 70. It's just, the cream comes to the top. And I go, that sounds great. He goes, so, you never know. You can have a bad couple of holes, but you're going to bounce back. You're going to get 6 birdies. So you don't care if you start off with a couple of bogeys. And Eric's, yeah. So I'm writing all that down. I'm reminding Eric that he's a top 70 player and stuff because Eric tries to throw in the towel as soon as he makes 2 bogeys on the back 9 on Friday. Oh, get me out of here. First flight out. And I'm like, what? And then all of a sudden he'll make 4 birdies and he'll be like close to the lead by the 3rd day, And so Jimmy and I, we'd ask questions and I'd get really good answers and I'd write them down and I'd remind Eric all the time. One of the things he said was never change your golf swing, Eric. He said, it's like a fingerprint. It's like a snowflake. It's you. He says, you've got to know you, and whatever brought you to the tour, stay with it and hang in there, because what'll happen is you'll get a chef, you'll get a trainer, you'll get a new wife, you'll get a new golf coach, then you'll start changing your ball flight because you want to be able to work it both ways like you keep talking about. You keep telling me Tiger can work it both ways at the pin. He said, if the pin's on the right side of the green and you're fading the ball, perfect. If it's on the left side, just aim it at the middle of the green and fade it and leave yourself a 25-footer and wait for your moments. You don't have to try to change your swing. But Eric was always trying to change his swing. Whether we're in Europe or wherever, he was always chasing Lee Westwood's coach around trying to work out how to hit a better cut shot because he was pulling him long and left over the greens. Yeah. And, but Jim Furyk has never changed. Yeah, never changed, but know your own swing. And so he said he's had a lot of people like, Jim McLean and Ledbetter and them coming up trying to change his swing. He said, I just said, thank you very much. My dad's my coach. I'm working on something else right now. That's good. Thank you very much. I'm good. So just stay with your swing. Don't change it. I had to keep reminding Eric of that because he kept trying to he called me up one day. He goes, hey, I played with Matt Kuchar today. The way he covers the ball and finishes low left, he says, I want to work on that. And I go, Eric, stop it. Remember what Jim Furyk said? He goes, no, what did he say? And I go, he said, stick with the swing you got that brought you to the tour. So then one day Eric calls me up. He goes, hey, Kelly, will you come and caddy for me the Corn Ferry Tour Championship? I go, what? He goes, I'm back. I lost my card. I go back to the school. I go, what do you mean you lost your card? He goes, yeah, I finished 130th. They only have 120 spots or whatever. I'm like, oh, you got to go back to the tour school? Really? So I called Jim Furyk up and I said, hey, Jim, Eric seems to be wanting me to caddy from the Corn Ferry Tour School. What's that all about? And he said, what, he lost his card? I said, yeah, I just narrowly missed out. So the next morning, Eric calls me at 7:30 in the morning. He goes, Kelly, you won't believe it. The tour just called me, and they said they're giving me a one-time get-out-of-jail card. I get another year on the tour. It's because I've made so many cuts and so much money or whatever, and it's a little-known rule, but so I'm back on tour. So that became his 5th year, and now he's a full pension member of the tour because he's completed 5 seasons. But after 4 years off and on, I guess over a 7-year period, he got 4 years under his belt and got his 5th year because Jim found a little, and he was a board of director, and he found a little known rule. But those alliances, and me sharing Mo Norman's story. So Mo not only helped me with golf, but allowed me to get in the inner circle of golfers. And everywhere I went, I played in Australia. I remember Kel Nagle and Peter Thompson asking me, "Oh, you're from Canada. You must know Mo Norman." And I would say, "Oh my God, I got to spend the last few summers with this guy." And I'd tell Mo Norman stories, and they'd want to go and have dinner and have beers and talk about Mo all night. So Mo was a legendary guy that people want to know about and talk about. Matter of fact, today I played golf this morning with my wife and two guys we played with. The one guy says, "You swing a little bit like Mo Norman." I said, "I know. I finish high. I finish high." And the guy said, "Yeah, I love the way you're swinging." I said, "Oh, I know. I'm not here to miss the ball." He said, "Well, you teed it up very high." And I said, "I know. The higher I tee it, the further I can hit it." And they go, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah, Mo used to have him off Coke bottles. And he'd never break the glass. And the tour would get mad at him, saying, 'You're going to shatter glass into the gallery.' And they're scared. They're scared." He goes, "I'm not here to hit the tee. Oh, a lot of times I still have Coke in the bottle. I'm just hitting it as a tee. I'm not hitting the bottle. I'm not here to hit the tee. I'm here to hit the ball."
Did you ever break a Coke bottle?
No, because I learned how to do it right. You just hit,
Yeah.
we're very good, you and I and Mo, and we're at hitting the sweet spot. So you just adjust the sweet spot, and you don't make you don't make the mistake. It's
I'll
like
make that
asking a
mistake.
LASIK surgeon if you ever missed the guy's eyeball and gouged his cheek or something. It doesn't happen. I'm not bragging. It's just that I'm very good. My clubs have got worn out sweet spots on them that size of a 10-cent piece. It's just terrible. It's a
Okay,
terrible
so
affliction.
here's a quick question for you, Kelly. So, obviously George Knudson, one of the great ball strikers of all time, we all know that, really struggled on the greens, right? Just, I mean, if he was a good putter, he would have been one of the greatest, records in history for sure.
Yes.
Why do you think he struggled so much with the putting when he was hanging around Alvey? Because Alvey was the great putter. Didn't some of that wear off on George a little bit?
Well, I think it did, but it also was the fact that he was so enamored with the ball flight and the strike of the ball, working on his posture and his balance, his arc, his swing path, his passive hands, and his balance. I mean, he was just a guy that was so wrapped up in the motion of the golf swing that the putting it was a waste of time. He didn't see the value in it. He's like Hogan. He'd say, I don't even want to putt. I just want to pick up the ball when I get to the green. And then he found friends like Mo that wanted to do the same thing, and they would just leave. They wouldn't even putt. They would just hit to the green and go pick them up and keep going to the next hole. And for some reason, uh, when you struggle with your putter, it's Mo always says it's two different games, one in the air and one on the ground. He says, "I like the
Yeah,
air game. I don't like the ground game. I don't like the ground game." And
yeah.
I took the Alvy Thompson advice, and after my first complete year on the Canadian Tour in 1981, I was heading to the European Tour School. And as times were back then, we didn't have cell phones, and it's very expensive long distance. So I waited till I got to Toronto, and when I got to Toronto, I made a local call to George, and Alvy had given me George's private line. And I called, and he answered. He was in his kitchen having breakfast or something, and I called him, and I told him that I was a student of Alvy Thompson. My name is so Alvy Thompson was my coach. I'm a new tour rookie. My name is Kelly Murray, and I'm heading to the European Tour School. And I leave in about 12 days out of Toronto, and I came out here early because Alvy told me I should go spend time with you. And he goes, "Oh, you're here already?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay, Oakdale. You know where Oakdale is?" He said, "Meet me tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Oakdale in the pro shop." I said, "Okay." So I get there around 7, and I go in the pro shop, and there's George reading the newspaper. And he's got a big trench coat on. It's late October, beginning of November, I believe. November, I think the tour school was going to be November 20th or something. So it was about the 12th or 8th of November. But I spent 11-hour days in a row with George Knudson. We met at 7 a.m. and went to 6 p.m. And after about 2 days, I said, "You want to meet again tomorrow?" And he goes, "Yeah, 7 a.m." He said, "I always like to get there before rush hour, and I leave after rush hour." So the rush hour then was you leave before 7 and then after 6. And George and I spent these. We could go on the range and hit. I would hit probably 400 golf balls before you even say the first word. And basically, he's working on something he taught me the day before. And the very first thing he ever said to me, George said, was, "It's all balance and posture. Golf, number one is balance. Number two is posture." And I went, "Right on, okay." And the next day, he told me it was posture and then balance. And I go, I said, well, didn't you say? He said they're intertwined. You can't do one without the other. Try riding your bike in bad posture or bad balance. It won't work. He said snow skiing, same thing. Golf, exactly. He said they're tied for first. Okay, so they're
He was a little secretive, wasn't he? About he
yeah.
wasn't really going to give it away, was he? What he was doing?
Well, no, he did, and then he taught me about the swing path. He taught me about the arc and the plane, and he taught me about um, passive hands. He said the most important thing is passive hands. You don't want any active hands. The hands follow the body. The body makes a dance step, and you go from the inside of your right heel to the big toe on your left foot, and you make that move,
Yeah.
and you make that move, and you come down the line. And
Diagonal weight shift, right? Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And he kept getting mad at me because my left arm was too straight through impact. He says your left arm has to bend just like your right arm bends on the backswing.
Hmm.
Your left arm bends on the follow through.
And George never grounded the club, right?
Yeah, exactly. And he played off the toe of the club. He
Yeah.
set it up on the toe of the club. He said the centrifugal force is going to take it out there.
Pick it out.
So,
Uh-huh.
yeah, he says so, and yeah, and Mo, of course. Now I'm dealing with Mo, and he's got the club 12 inches behind the ball. So I got these two. You got these two dudes that are doing stuff that nobody else does. And then I get watered down by watching John Erickson and Vic Wilk and the boys on tour.
Yeah. Right. Okay, we're back. Part three.
I got a bottle of water, so why don't you take it over and I'll have a sip and we'll talk. I should have a Coke, but I don't have any Coke in the fridge. Mo said that he's been drinking Coke his whole life. He says, "Look, at Michael Jackson just got $1 million contract with Pepsi. Doesn't even drink this stuff. Doesn't even drink this stuff. I've been drinking Coke and they haven't paid me a dime."
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me your favorite Mo Norman story that other than the one that you met Vic Wilk and it was the first
Well,
Canadian.
yeah, that was certainly one of the great ones. I mean, just I just have great memories of like hanging out with Mo. It was a Cadillac or an Eldorado, like that big car that he's driving around in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And in the back trunk, he just had all the persimmons, and he would just go, oh, people are like, Mo, why aren't you hitting a metal? He goes, oh no, the persimmon. I know what these are worth. I know what they're worth. I know what they're worth. Um, yeah, just going through the clubs, like he was really big on the 1 pound driver. He said that he goes, oh, me and George and Hogan, the 1 pound golf club. You're talking about the weight. I remembered picking his driver up, just going like, I had a 14-ounce persimmon, which is a little heavy for what most guys are doing, and his driver was way heavier than mine. I was like, wow. And I know that you were swinging stuff that was like super heavy.
It was like an F8 swing weight. I don't even know. It was like retarded.
Yeah, did you ever go into anything heavier than 16 ounces? Did you ever go into like 17, 18 ounces?
I think I might have, John. But I wasn't religiously weighing anything. It felt better and it felt like it loaded better and I could handle it. I just went with it. I just remember Jean-Louis Lamar and all those French Canadian guys kept going in my bag and bringing guys over to pull out drivers, and they just like, what? Remember on the Asian tour that all the Asian players couldn't understand what the hell I was swinging. Like, what is that?
Boy, he could strike it good too, John Louis, huh? But I mean, I remember watching him. We played at the BC Open one time. I don't think he missed a fairway or green. He was just
Yeah. Jean Louis, he never wore golf gloves. Jean Louis was coming down the stretch. He had his tour card in his back pocket. He got the 17th at TPC and dunked a couple in the water and made an 8, I believe, and missed his card by a shot or two. And
Yeah.
and he would have been he would have been out there. He was a hell of a player, Jean Louis. My wife almost killed him at the Indian Open. She hit the composite course at the Indian Open. I had my caddy. I was playing, and then I hired a caddy on the other course, the 36-hole layout, for my wife. And I said, just take her around the course all day long. So, anyways, at one point she smokes a driver over the trees onto the tournament course. And well, sure enough, John Louis Lamar is walking up the fairway, and this ball goes between his ear and his shoulder and lands on the ground behind him. And he goes, "Where the hell did that come from? Like, what's on the other side of those trees?" And his caddy goes, "Oh, that's the other golf hole. That's from other amateur member course." And Rumi comes through the trees. "Oh, hi, John Louis. Did you see my ball?" John Louis, to this day, he keeps saying, "Oh my God, your wife almost killed me." Oh my God, that was terrible. So I've got a picture here. Name that golfer. And who can name that golfer? Did you say
Looks like
Calvin?
Calvin Pete.
You said Calvin. So I played the Panama Open 1982 with 36 holes Thursday and Friday with Calvin Pete. And I learned so much about the ability to hit a golf ball where you're looking positively and with bent arms, and didn't matter what the swing looked like, but just the repeating action and the rhythm and the tempo. So all of a sudden what George Knudson told me came into real full circle. So I played 36 holes with Calvin, and I kept telling him things like, "Man, you're legendary. This is such a pleasure playing with you, you know." And I'm using, and at the time, Bill Rogers had won the Hawaiian Open with an orange golf ball. So the very next week, the pro staff Wilson guy gave me a dozen orange golf balls. I put them in my suitcase and I brought them out at the Panama Open. And I'm playing on the first tee, and I'm introducing myself to our boy Calvin, and I'm showing him a colored golf ball and saying, "I've got a pro staff number 3 with a pencil mark above the 3." And he looked at it and he goes, "You using a colored ball?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Never saw one like that." And I said, "Well, yeah, Bill Rogers just won the Open at Hawaii." Yeah. So anyways, I proceeded to get on the par 5 first hole and knock it out of bounds. So I pulled another one, hit it down the fairway, and I knocked my next one on the green, make the putt for a 5. And he plays a 3-shot hole and 2-putt par. We walk off the green. He goes, "That's a different way of playing." I showed Calvin Pete the John Daly kind of like Bubba Watson style, and he was showing me the George Knudson, Ben Hogan, Mo Norman style. And you know what was really cool about Calvin Pete? He knew exactly how far his Golden Ram golf ball went. When he hit it, it was a wound ball. When he hit it off the tee, he would go to the back of the tee and he'd wait for everybody to leave, the caddies and the other players, and then he'd go to the tee markers and he'd paste it to his ball and he'd mark it in his little book. He'd write 267, was the average, 267 every par 4 tee shot. And I said, after the first round, I said, you were very meticulous with your numbers. And he goes, "Yeah, if I hit a ball and it went to like 61 and it felt a little soft, on my next shot, I would, if it was between a 5 and a 6 iron, I would take the 5 iron because I know it's the softer ball, so I'm going to have to get a little bit more oomph into the ball to get to the pin." And the guy was all over the flags all day. I mean, it was just incredible.
Well, he was the top ball striker on the tour for how many? I mean, as far as like fairways
10,
and green
yeah,
regulation.
10 years in a row. But
It's
what's amazing about that, John? He would never take out a new ball in a par 3 because he didn't know how far the ball would go because he hadn't tested it. But when he would tee off on a par 4 or par 5 when it didn't matter, and he would hit it down the fairway, and he would measure it, and he would judge in his own instinct, is it a softer or a harder ball? And as a result of that, then he knew he could gauge his next shot. And then on par 3, he would always use the ball that he used the previous holes, and he knew that this was a hard ball. So if it's going to be a 6 or 7 iron, he would take the 7 iron. And he was all over the flagstick. He was pin high religiously all day long. And I bent down on about the 3rd hole the second day, and I said, "It's a pleasure playing with you. I just, I'm trying. I've already gone to the U.S. Tour School 3 times." He says, "You keep going." He says, "You got Dan Halderson, you got Dave Barr." you got Jim Nelford and Dick Zokol out there. He says, those are good Canadian players. He says, you hang in there, you're as good as them. And I said, thank you. And I'll never forget that. But the guy was unbelievable. The rhythm that he had was similar to George Knutson's. It was a timing thing, and he had that left arm bent that he broke falling out of a tree as a kid. So I had a lot of good memories, and wherever I went, and then I told him that Mo Norman was my coach for the last year, and he goes, "Oh man, you wanted to hear about Mo." Calvin Pete wanted to hear about Mo. So the kings of the game want to talk about the other kings. You know, they really want to get that. And Calvin could actually putt pretty dang good. So his
Yeah.
ball striking, he had just as much effort into his putting game as he did his long game and his iron game. Whereas Mo, I never saw him practice putting. And then as Mo got old, and as we do, you know, we get old, and as he did, he was probably, I think my wife made dinner for him and took pictures of me at Mo at his Cadillac and picking up his 10-pound weight of lead tape in the trunk of the car and all that. And Mo said to me, he goes, you know, I'm getting old now, and I've finally realized that putting is kind of fun. So now I'm hitting 1,000 putts a day instead of 1,000 balls a day. So we spent the whole day at the putting green. Mo hit putt all day. I was like, wow. He's just going around like a little kid. He goes, I didn't realize it was this much fun. It's just a miniature golf shot. It's the same thing, same thing, same thing. So later in life, Mo actually took to putting, but he never wanted. He said he hated putting all his life. Wanted to play the air game, not the ground game. But he found out the putting was just as much fun. So that's my story, John. I'm going to leave here about a minute ago to go golfing,
Okay.
and then I'm going to the Yes
Well,
concert.
great.
I'm going to go to the Yes
And then
concert.
you're going to the Yes concert tonight. Well, say hi to Steve Howe for me. Will you
Oh,
do that?
oh, well, is this somebody that you know? I don't think I don't have any backstage pass like you, Johnny. I'm just kind of a,
Well,
I'm a
just
pro.
tell Steve I said hi.
Is that right? Are you golfing with him?
No, no, no. It's a long
No.
story. But
Okay.
anyway, we'll save that for another time.
Okay.
Okay, Kelly. Well, that was great. We'll do this again soon, huh? We got so much more to cover. I want to talk about Alvy Thompson. I want to go down that rabbit
Excellent.
hole, do the short game stuff. It's just, nobody was better, right?
No, you're absolutely correct.
So we got a lot to cover.
Yeah, nobody was better. Nobody even
We're just
understands.
scratching the surface
Nobody
here.
could ever understand how good he was at putting. Extraordinary putter. Extraordinary putter. Just in his mind, he
Yeah.
didn't miss a putt in his mind. He said, play it down and dirty. Don't mark it and line it up or anything. Just play it as it lies and go. Just don't even think about it. And he says, line up your putt from 50 yards out. So I still do that to this day. I'm walking up to the greens, lining up my putt from 50 yards out. Guys drive up in their cart, they walk over, they don't know which way. You might as well parachute them in. They don't even know where they are. They're just like looking at the ground going, huh? And they got no idea the slopes. But I've seen it from 50 yards out, baby. I'm ahead of the curve. All right, man.
Yeah, he taught me so much. Yeah, it was great. But we'll do that another time. Okay,
Okay,
enjoy
lad.
the concert. We'll see you soon.
Okay, cheers.
All right, Kelly, that was a pleasure.
Bye bye now.
Oh, let it upload. Let it upload
Okay.
after I stop.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye. Okay. Is it uploading? It's got 99.